Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another LSB film podcast. I hope everyone's well today. So today's guest is Dale Vincent. Dale is a former soldier whose name many people will probably recognise from one of the most heated periods in our history. During the peak of COVID, Dale became a highly controversial and visible character after campaigning outside of the old vaccination centres, and actions that ultimately led to the closures of 3 of them. Now, whether people agreed with Dale or not, his stance sparked a strong reaction and an even stronger debate. In this episode, we step away from the headlines and get to know the man behind them. Dale is disciplined, principled, and driven by a deep sense of responsibility. Shaped by his military background, this isn't about slogans or sound bites. It's a chance to hear Dale's motivations, his experiences, his personal accounts, and the personal cost of taking such, amongst a field full of sheep, an unpopular stand. Whatever your views, Dale is thoughtful, respectful, and genuinely committed to what he believes is right. So, without further ado, Dale, welcome to the show.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Right, so welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Such a character. I've been speaking briefly before we press record, and I can already tell this is going to be quite an illuminating podcast. So yeah, welcome to the show, Dale Vincent.
Hi, Chris and Co.
How are you?
I'm not too bad this morning, my friend. Thank you for asking.
Jolly good. I do really like your decor.
Yes? Well, it's not mine.
Okay.
I'm not sure how familiar you are, but this meeting is being recorded, so I just press OK there. So I was recently on the 21st of October, I was ragged out of my home by South Wales police and bailiffs. For those of you unaware, a bailiff executing a repossession order is a civil matter. Now, a civil matter does not require the police officers to be there. However, the police were there before the bailiffs. Now, get this. A week before the police and the bailiffs ragged me out of my home, a week prior to that, I submitted evidence of Sergeant Geraint Rees, 4477 of South Wales Police Constabulary. I submitted evidence of his misconduct in a public office to the King's Bench. King's Bench is one of the highest courts in the land. Now, recently, I have what I call as a legal family. They're basically a legal team, from all walks of life that help me. Okay, I don't pay them. They've seen my content go viral online, and they've reached out to me. Now, recently, I have a Paul from the realm of England. He has recently made me aware that after I submitted evidence of Sergeant Geraint Rees, 4477, his crimes of misconduct of public office, into a High Court, King's Bench, he claims that when he came to my home, hello, buddy, I might have dogs jumping around me as well,
No,
troops,
that's fine.
just to make you aware.
I've got a cat, but we're just asleep.
I've been made aware that him... Shut up! I've been made aware that him coming to my property after me submitting crimes of his misconduct is high treason. Now, for the viewers and audience that are unaware, my legal team have told me that Sergeant Geraint Rees's crimes is high treason. Now, again, I am a soldier, okay? So I'm not a lawyer. Okay, I am very smart. I am quite clever. I am able to digest pamphlets and issue it to my troops at a very high standard. However, the law, as I'm sure you're aware, Chris, is vast. So we have common law that
Hmm.
is relatively buckshy, easy, okay, and then we have this acts and statutes,
The
which is
maritime law
admiralty law.
and
Now
admiralty law.
you couldn't digest this in 3 lifetimes. It is impossible for any one man to digest the entire legal system in one lifetime, which tells
You
you
can make it
everything.
you can make it
Go on.
really simplified, literally by just saying everything comes down to contract. Everything is contract, everything is banking. Everything you do is about money, about commerce. That's it. That is the legal system.
That is the legal system, but unfortunately, well, I say not a lot of people are understanding it. And that was correct a few months ago, but I believe that this awakening process is happening on a rapid fire. I mean, we spoke just before we went live. I'm literally getting 20, 30 DMs daily. And it's people, they're asking, what can they do? How can they challenge their taxes? How can they use promissory notes? I have, right? So I've been doing this work since I left the military in December 2020, and unfortunately, I have PTSD, so my workload is limited.
Mm.
Okay, I'm not able to do the work as efficiently as I used to be when I was a corporal. However, I've realised that it's impossible. It's impossible for one man to digest and execute. However, because I've been so successful in making people aware, if you like, I have a lot of people now that are helping me. And honestly, I am very optimistic. I am very, very optimistic. I mean, 5 years ago, I thought that we were going to end up communist Wales. Or are you from England, Chris, is it?
Yes, I am born and bred in England.
Well, I thought we would be communist UK.
Mm.
However, after seeing the the Great Awakening process, or the breaking of the slave mentality, or herd mentality, or cognitive dissonance, whatever you want to call it, I now believe we have more than a fighting chance of winning this war. I honestly believe all the
I've
criminals will
always
be
been
held to
quietly
account.
optimistic.
Well, I haven't. See, for me, being an infantry soldier, I'm very black and white. I haven't won until I've applied the bayonet and I've taken over the enemy position, and now I'm looking around after taking the enemy's terrain. However, this is not conventional. This is irregular,
Mm.
unconventional. So I'm very much out of my depth. But I'm
I think we
in my
all are, though, to
defense.
be fair, aren't we? But we have got the unity of each other.
Well, I do believe we've come together. And again, I honestly thought so. For those of you unaware, I closed a vaccine centre down with Mark Sexton and a team of professionals on the 1st of October 2022. Now, my thinking process was, when I closed that centre down, the streets would have millions of people in them with pitchforks, ready, ready for justice. However, the content went viral. It was seen tens of millions of times, and there was no pitchforks. However, after seeing what Trump, when I say Trump, I don't believe Trump is doing this on his own. I believe Trump is being guided, because Trump is only a businessman, right? The guys that are the guys that are helping him, these guys are military. These are, make no mistake about it. The guys, the tactics that these guys are doing, they are incredible. You know, for example, when he wrote, so a lot of people are confused with Operation Warp Speed. Are you familiar with Operation Warp Speed, Chris?
I have looked into it, but so long ago, it wouldn't hurt if you wanted to give me a refresher.
So just to remind and revise for us, right? Warp Speed was Trump trying to push the vaccination process as fast as humanly possible. Now,
But
a
this was
lot
a
of people
different
think,
vaccine, though, wasn't it? This was one made up of hydro. It was an ivermectin and hydrochlor or whatever you, however you pronounce it, mix. It wasn't the vaccine that then became the vaccine.
well, honestly, mate, I don't know. And
Okay.
you know, let's be honest. When we're at the bottom of the pyramid, we're guessing, aren't we? You know, because we don't know. We haven't had these vials. We haven't taken them into custody. We haven't had a forensic team examine them. However, what we do know is Ricardo Borsi. He is a lieutenant colonel of the SAS. Now that means he's the commanding officer. So in my role as an infantier, he's as far as you can go. In the infantry world, the commanding officer of the SAS is right up the top. Now, he claims that Operation Warp Speed was done because it was logistically impossible for them to keep the mRNA at the right temperature in order for it to keep its mRNA capabilities. Now, that's only one man's opinion. However, we've also had confirmation of that from Dr. Peter McCullen. For those of you unaware of Dr. Peter McCullen, please go and check him out. He is the leading cardiologist in the world. He's the most published man. He has also got a protocol out, a simple Google, wrong, a simple DuckDuckGo search will confirm his protocols. And it's basically nanocanye, curcumin, and bromelain, I believe. So I have loved ones that are recently started these protocols. One of the individuals no longer gets headaches. So she's had a headache ever since she was unfortunately administered the
Yeah.
mRNA shot. The other one is my father. Now I can tell you, my father, he only had one shot and he's in shit state. He received two strokes after one shot, and he is on a cognitive decline. So my mother suffered dementia. And the only way that I can describe my father's symptoms to you is he is like my mother was, the early signs and symptoms of dementia. So before I was ragged out of my home, I used to live in the house next door to my father. I bought the house next door. So I'd be visiting him every day.
Mhm.
I would try to cook for him. I would try to encourage him to have his vitamins. And honestly, for years, you know, I tried many things, and his cognitive ability was on a decline. And it was very, you know, as any of the viewers can imagine, you know, to see a loved one, you know, I love my father very much. To see a loved one deteriorate the way he was,
Heartbreaking.
it's there's nothing worse. However, after he's on the Lion Mane, so this is a Lion Mane coffee. I haven't got any Lion Mane to show you, but that's a Lion Mane coffee I was gifted
My wife's
yesterday.
actually just brought me the capsules of liamine because my memory seems to be going to shit of lately, like really
Well,
bad.
and again, years ago, people would they would hate this information, but now it seems that people
Well, I
are
think people are
starting.
waking up because they're actually starting to see what's unfolded. Like literally, never before in that I can remember have we seen so many young athletes dropping down, clutching their chest on the pitch, or newsreaders, or having strokes whilst talking, or do you know what I mean? There's so much of it that's going on that you, I don't know how anyone
You
could
can't
deny
deny
it.
it.
You
We had
can't.
a we had a Fusilier, which is the lowest rank within the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. It's essentially a private soldier, but they're named Fusiliers because of the regiment, obviously. But we had a young Fusilier die on the rugby pitch the other day, about a month ago, and I done a quick 20-minute Google search, and I have never found a Fusilier die on a rugby pitch from heart attack. Never ever happened. And these guys, like, because unfortunately, right, with my job, yes, I love my friends. Yes, I love my soldiers. However, if you are, you know, there is such a thing as having a good friend, but he may not necessarily be the best soldier in the world. You
Mm.
know, so you, in my role, you have to have the moral courage and the professionalism to say, listen, champ, you're not pulling the wool. You
Mm.
need to be better at shooting, better at navving, fitter, or whatever the case may be. And if an individual is slacking in that area, you then go on remedial PT or remedial range, or, you know, you have some extra curriculum activity to bring you up to speed. But nobody, and I think thinking of this from an enemy perspective, you know, these guys have obviously had a lot of time to prepare. You cannot deny this plan was genius. Who did they go for first?
The
The military.
elderly, and
Well, they did go for the elderly first, yes, but concurrent to the elderly, who was looking after the elderly? The nurses, the doctors, the frontline troops, all of the squaddies were same detail, getting jabbed with the nannies and grampies. They basically weakened our our backbone, the backbone of the country. All of the people that look after us, they were jabbed first, and that unfortunately then encourages uh, cognitive dissonance,
mm.
Stockholm
were
syndrome,
were
because
they were they all jabbed first? Because they'd I thought it was the case that all the nurses, it was a case of get jabbed or don't work, and in the end they had to step back because so many nurses said no, we're not doing it. So, or have I got
so
that wrong?
I believe that's now. I believe that's now. I'm talking about when the jabs were first introduced. They tried, the frontline workers were the first people to have it.
Mm. See,
And again,
the
that
thing I knew that was when it was all a bit weird when they prioritized the care workers and the elderly to go shopping, so the most vulnerable mixing with those who work all day with the ill to go around shopping. You know, nothing made sense, and so I think that kind of backs up what you're saying. That the main two people that they were going for were the care workers and the elderly, because that scenario also kind of puts, if you buy into that narrative, puts them both at risk.
and ultimately you also have the scare tactic then, because they're hitting the more vulnerable, the guys with the weakened immune systems, causing the more damage. With the more damage comes the more propaganda and the scare tactic on TV. I mean, yeah, what these guys done was genius. It was absolutely genius. And I've got to be honest, when it initially came, I bought into the lie. I seen I seen the dangerous virus on telly, and people were keeling over in the streets in China. Now we know it's a lot of cod's wallop. But at
Hmm.
the time, I was like, because my father, He's old and vulnerable, and he's not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. And he was just walking back and forth down the spa. And I was like, Dad, you got you got to stop doing this, bro, because you're going to potentially catch the virus and die. You haven't had the vaccine. And then the more I I got to be honest, right? I was medically discharged from the military in December 2020. Now, when the army discharged me, they stopped me from seeing my son. Now, I couldn't believe this because I was always within the top third of my platoon, of my company. I was always a stronger soldier. I was always the stronger member of the company.
So was this under the Mental Health Act then?
No, 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 no.
No.
So this was whilst I was still serving in the army. Now, they sent me home on sick leave. I would then get loads of doctors and people to visit me at my home. One social worker came to visit me, and he claimed that I'd been kicking my dogs. Now, when I found out this information, the baby's mother rang me up and she said, "Oh, you can't see the baby anymore." So then I rang up the army. I currently had a sergeant major looking after me, and I said, "Sir, what the fuck has happened?" "Oh, sorry, Vince. Oh, sorry, Vince. We'll get to the bottom of it." He confirmed to me. He confirmed that it definitely didn't come from the army. 1,000,000%. Definitely didn't come from the army. He also advised me not to reach out to social services because it could worsen my scenario. So after about 2 to 3 weeks, I thought, fuck it, I got nothing to lose. So I rang social services. They immediately told me, they said, "Yes, Dale, the information came from the social worker that visited you at your house." So then I rang my sergeant major and I was like, "Oh, shit, Dick. It was you stopped me seeing my child. You absolute fucking integrity of a wet rizzler." And then they completely stopped seeing me. So I was on what's known as WIS, Wounded, Injured and Sick Soldiers.
That was me
Now,
thinking speed.
Pardon?
I said that was me thinking speed.
Well, I was there for 2 years, right? No, not fat. I was there for 2 years. And then I was going to therapy, and I had a captain that was in the military, and he was saying, "Well, how are you feeling today, Corporal Vincent?" I said, "Sir, I haven't seen my thin child in months because of your error. I need you to contact the baby's mum and explain that you guys have fucked up." He wasn't willing to do that. I was a 14...
Can you just? I still don't quite understand how did he have anything to do with dobbing you in about kicking your dogs if you're not even at your house?
So they used to come and visit me at my house. So I used to have soldiers. I say soldiers. I used to have sergeant majors, nurses, doctors, social workers come to visit me at my home. So what I actually reported to this guy was I was having a bad day and I went through one of my doors. He didn't mention the door. He said that I've been punching walls and kicking dogs. Now, they are both inaccurate. So I asked for them to show me a copy of what he'd reported on me. And I was reading through it with a fine-tooth comb, found out where the lion's shit has made an error, and I confirmed, rang them up with social services, and they said, "Oh, no, there's nothing that we can do about that now." They wouldn't change the error. They wouldn't ring my baby's mother to confirm that it was an error. And that was, I believe that was in 2019. So ultimately, it frightened my baby's mother, and she stopped me seeing my child. Now, I don't blame her for that. I don't blame her. I mean, I'm a little bit, it's sour, but I didn't blame her for that. So after some years, right, ultimately I thought to myself, well, if I'm not seeing my child, I might as well listen to Ricardo Borsi. For those of you unaware, he is a Lieutenant Colonel of the SAS. Very outstanding bloke. Please go and watch him if you're unfamiliar.
Is this
So I
the
would.
Australian or New Zealand bloke?
That's the
Yeah.
Australian
Yeah.
SAS dude. Yes,
Mm.
he's Lieutenant Colonel, which is the commanding officer. So I watched this guy, and he was explaining about the cabal or the deep state or the Khazarian mafia or whatever word that you want to call these criminals. And basically, he said, if you want to help us in any way, shape, or form, he said, don't come to Australia and fight them. He said, the cabal are worldwide. So he said, you need to go up against your government. So ultimately, that's what I done. The day after, I wrote a social media post. I wanted a witness. Sadie popped up and said she would witness. I went down to the police station with a crime reference number from Mark Sexton. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The cop had come out and I said, sir, I need to confirm that this crime reference number is authentic. And he said, we can't do that here. That's Metropolitan Police. We're South Wales Police. Now, I've been in the army 14 years. Now, I know if something's happening on the other side of the AO, area of operations, let's say, for example, the Rifles are over there or the Royal Marines are over there. If I need comms with them, I get their call sign and I speak to them. It's not a case of, oh, you're not allowed to speak to that call sign. So immediately I knew on the first day how absolutely crap South Wales Police are. So I said to the cop, I said, listen, if you're not willing to go down and close this vaccine centre, I'm going to do it. And he said, well, I wouldn't advise that. And I said, yeah, you were the same guy that can't authenticate this crime reference number. So I'm not listening to you, you clown. We went down to the COVID centre, which was in Hawthorne Leisure Centre in South Wales. We went down with all this paperwork. They asked us to stand outside while they get the manager. Soon as we stood outside, bang, they closed the doors, locked the doors, wouldn't let us in. We rang the police. The police turned up. We read them. Listen, sir, here's your crime reference number. Under Section 24A of PACE, Police and Criminal Evidence Act, I am entitled to use reasonable proportionate and necessary force to get in that building and detain them criminals. And I've still got the video. They walked away. They literally walked away. So I'm like this now. I've just come out of the army. And on my very first day, I'm like this. Holy smokes. These police, they're complicit in my opinion. You can't be that terrible at your job. And ultimately that started me on my process. I mean, I would then continue to share content on social media. I was seeing a head coach at the time because I do struggle with my PTSD. And the head coach, he advised me, he said, Vince, you're not going to settle until you reach out to this Mark Sexton dude. So I reached out to Mark again, and he got in contact with me this time. We went and met him. I explained to him because I had content go viral before all this palaver. So I explained to Mark, I said, Mark, you need to close a vaccine centre down and you need to make it go viral. And his immediate response was, I've closed down so many, Vince, I'm not doing that anymore. And I said, yes, Mark, the difference is when I get off a plane in Spain or France or Germany, people recognize me for my content. I said, that's the kind of video that you need to do. You need to make sure that you're not saying any words like I'm not going to say it because obviously the algorithm will pick it up. But I said, you need to make sure that you change certain words so the algorithms can't pick them up. And ultimately, your content will blow up. And that's exactly what we done. We closed the jab center down.
So how many have you
We were
closed in total?
3. So I wanted to keep going. I wanted to go up and down the country and close them all. Now, unfortunately, this was before my learning of lawfare, because in the military we have orders, and within the orders we have what's known as LOE. Limit of exploitation. Now, the boss will give a corporal LOE for many reasons. Enemy stronghold, rations, casualties, etc., etc. So I was willing to go up and down the country, but Mark ultimately gave me my LOE. He explained to me, he said, Vince, if you continue to go arresting these coppers, what they'll do is they'll hold you in contempt of court. Irrelevant if you're innocent or guilty, they'll hold you in contempt of court, pardon me, until the trial. Now, this was the 4th of the 10th, 2022. Now, they've pushed my case back 4 years, which means as Julian Assange was fucking locked up for years, that could have potentially been me. I could have potentially been a political prisoner, as it's known as. So I am definitely far more effective this side of the wire, and I'm a listening guy. You know I'm not the smartest guy in the platoon. That's why, as a section commander, I would always debrief my troops. So I'll have them in one straight line, looking at the ground ahead of us, talk them through the terrain, talk them through the tactics, and I'll always finish with any feedback for me. Because I promoted at 21, so I was a young NCO within the army. Now, I was one of the youngest guys in my section, so all the guys that were old, even though I'm their boss, I had many guys more
Much older.
senior than I. So I would have guys, for example, that have been to Iraq and Bosnia and Northern Ireland. Now, I haven't been to them conflicts. So that's different terrain for me. So obviously, I'm going to listen to my troops. So it's something that it's not foreign to me. It's something that I'm used to. So as soon as Mark told me I'm not to arrest any more individuals, yes, I was slightly browned off, but I'm a listening dude. So unfortunately, I am now twiddling my thumbs. Well, as a matter of fact, the court case for the citizen's arrest is in July of 2026. So they pushed us back 4 years. However, I've recently come into contact with individuals from the realm of England. They claim that the best scenario for me moving forward would be to go after these individuals civilly first. Now, if I go after them civilly, one, it will be a lot faster because I'm sure you're aware criminal cases can last years, as mine has lasted 4 years. However, civil is a lot faster. And with the civil case, I'll be entitled to some compensation. So my legal family now have advised me I'm going to enjoy my Christmas because I have been burning the candle at both ends. I've constantly got friends around me, and they're like, Vince, give it rest, because I'm constantly replying to people and trying
You're
to
on a bloody
educate
mission,
people.
mate. That's what you're doing.
Well, I am a soldier, and as a lot of people are pointing out, I'm not getting paid. I'm no longer employed by the army. However, as per Pascal Najadi refers to it, I am an irregular, unconventional. So that's what kind of soldier I am. Fifth generation warfare. We are simply trying to win the hearts and the minds of the people. And I'll tell you, Chris, it's been one of the most demanding, difficult tasks of my life, because still to this day, so I seen my father, it's now what, Monday, Wednesday. I seen my father Saturday just gone. And for the first time in 4 years, I mentioned to him that I'm entitled to some compensation. And for the first time in 4 years, he didn't call me a fucking idiot. Because 9 times out of 10, when I try to educate people on the subject matter, and you lose people.
Cognitive dissonance, Stockholm syndrome, call it what you want.
Call it what you want, mate. But it's
See,
been a
and
journey
I
for
have to
sure.
see, and I've got to respect that as well, because it can't be easy having your dad call you a idiot when all you're trying to do is watch his back.
Mate,
I
it's
understand how
been,
difficult that must really be.
well, I can trump the dad. I can trump the dad, mate. My son is the
Okay,
same detail. Because you got to understand, right? I arrested a police officer. That content was seen by tens of millions of people. Now, my thinking process was, I'm going to show my son because he may see it on
yeah, he'll
TikTok.
get to say it anyway.
Exactly. He could see it anyway. So I showed it to him. Now,
And how
he
old was
did
he at the
not,
time?
he was about 5, 6 years old, unfortunately.
Okay.
Now, I know, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, yes, but the most important thing for me was for my child not to take this fucking jab. So I had to sit down and I had to tell him, I said, listen, buddy, you've got a good, strong immune system, okay? You do not need that jab. Now, I went to family court because, as I've said, the mother, and I can't hate mum too much for following. She wasn't to know that these orders are unlawful. I mean, when you see a policeman, he's dressed in a certain attire. We're conditioned to think that they're good guys. But unfortunately, when I showed my son the content of me arresting the copper, he didn't like it. It
See,
really
so I'm
upset
really
him.
surprised because at that age as well, I've shown my boys stuff,
Well,
and I think at that age, I just don't think that that would necessarily register anything with him. So your boy must be quite clued up.
well, I gotta be honest, mate. The way I see it is, he sees a copper as a good guy. Now, even though he loves dad, you know, in his thinking process, I think, because he knows that I have PTSD as well, I think he's thought, fuck me, my dad's lost it because he's out there trying to arrest a copper. Now, when I was assessed by a psychiatric nurse within the court system, and they deemed that I was emotionally harming my child, that gives medical misinformation that could lead to vaccine hesitancy. Now, this was back in, this was years ago, to be fair. But you've got to take into consideration, he's just a boy, mate, and he doesn't understand. It's a lot, mate. It's a lot. But ultimately, I won't say I'm over it.
Just
I've been
redirecting your
separate.
focus.
Well, it's kind of um I've become robust. Um, you know, yes, this has been a fucking process, my friend. This has been difficult. I had my dogs the other day. And I haven't seen him in weeks. And when I seen him, I started crying because my female border collie, she is my ESA, which is my emotional support animal,
Hmm.
and The first time I'd seen her for 3 weeks, she went absolutely bonkers. And honestly, mate, it broke my fucking heart. You know, people were like, oh, look how nice it is that she's missed you. But my thinking process was, she shouldn't be getting this excited because she's missed her dad. You know, she should be with her dad. The coppers, right, listen to this, Chris. The coppers came to my home, right, with the bailiffs, which is not allowed, right? Police, criminal, bailiff, civil. It's as simple as that. I opened my front door. Sergeant Geraint Rees was there. I immediately said to him, fuck off. I've submitted evidence of your crimes. You were crooked. I want another sergeant. He said, no, you're not having another sergeant. I said to him, I've got PTSD. I need time to take my medication. They denied me to take my medication. These guys are absolute vermin. They are evil. They are unprofessional. Honestly, mate, they are a stain. They are making Britain. Well, look at it now. We've got.
I think they're dehumanized, aren't they?
Mate, we've got, right, we know. Yeah, you can go and watch the programme, James O'Keefe's Line in the Sand, right? James O'Keefe, I don't know whether you're familiar with him. He's my favourite journalist of all time. In his documentary, he shows you how these illegal fellas are coming over here. They've got nothing, mate. They've got no paperwork, no passport. They come into the fucking Home Office, and the Home Office are like, what do you need, mate? Do you need money? Do you need flight? Do you need food? Do you need a hotel? Whilst they're ragging veterans that potentially... Do you know how many times I've come dying for my country? Do you know how many times I've been shot? Do you know how many times I've been blown up? Not to mention, some of my friends didn't make it back, Chris. The way that these guys are treating veterans, and it makes perfect sense. Donald Trump, right? Now, whether you like him or not, I honestly think he's a fucking hero. Personally. I mean, we're all entitled to our own opinion.
Absolutely.
But let's look at the facts. Let's look at the facts. A couple of years ago, human trafficking was up 5,000% annually. Every year, it was the fastest growing criminal syndicate the world has ever known. Now, that's not my opinion. You can go and watch Tim Ballard. You can go and watch the film of Tim Ballard, The Sound of Freedom. He's also made another movie, Hidden War. I've unfortunately not had the pleasure of watching that yet, but I can't wait to fucking see it. But guys, we need to educate ourselves. We need to get amongst these documentaries because, let's be honest, right? President Trump is a clever geezer. You know, any dickhead that's a multi-billionaire and he hasn't inherited it through his family, you could argue the guy, he's quite clever. Now, he claims that George Soros and Klaus Schwab, which are naughty men, I'm trying to better myself on the swearing, Chris, but these guys are disgusting. They are the evilest. Mate, they are satanic as you like. Now, he claims that these guys are investing hundreds of millions to destabilize nations. Now, you may think that that's... Why would somebody want to do that? Because there is no peace. There is no profit in peace. We've also got James O'Keefe's... So he hires like these pretty girls to go on dates, on these Tinder dates with these tech billionaires and BlackRock employees. They're telling us. They're literally telling you on hidden cameras, war is great for profit. What they do is they'll put stocks on certain environments, like wheat, and then blow the building up. So the stocks and shares go through the roof. Now, that's not my opinion. That's what these guys are saying on hidden cameras. So, I mean, sirs, ma'ams, ladies and gentlemen, make your own mind up. This is not theatre. This is not a movie. This is real life journalism catching these crooks. So I would also like to add, whilst I have the floor, recently I have had so many DMs, so many people now, because the content is, it's really going viral. People are asking me 20, 30 times a day, Vince, what can I do? It's very simple, guys. Stop paying mental amounts of money to your gas and utility. You are now paying with a direct debit. It is not against the law for you to ring them up and saying, listen, I'm paying you a standing order. Do your own due diligence. We've also gone to court, right? So I've lost 2 properties. They attacked both properties with around a 20 police force in each simultaneously. 5 to 9, they went through my other house, the one that's being rented, and then same detail, about 9 o'clock, a couple of minutes later, they came through my house. Now, I've gone to court on 2 separate occasions for both properties. The first property that I live in, I mentioned with the UCC 1308. Now, the judge claims that that is American legislation. My friend Steve James Forsyth have submitted it to Bournemouth Crown Court. For those of you unaware, that is in England. It is in the United Kingdom. K.C. William Mousley was the presiding judge. It was not rebutted. If it's not rebutted,
It stands as fact.
It stands as fact in law. Thank you for coming to school, Chris. To all these fucking dickheads that are saying, I've even got friends, right? They're celebrating me being ragged out of my house.
See, and the other thing that people really need to get their head around is knowing the difference between private and public, and operating in the private and not in the public. And people don't understand the difference there either.
The system has been designed in such a manner just to confuse. For example, now for me to appeal a judge's decision, there's an N161 form and a 171 form. Honestly, mate, it's bananas. It's absolutely bananas. However, let me just finish with this, or let me just remind. So that was the first time that I went to court. I mentioned the UCC 1308. The judge said, fuck off, it doesn't apply here. Even though he found the case law on his computer. And do you know what he said to us, Chris? He said, well, that doesn't apply here because that is criminal. Now,
there is certain things where jurisdiction is only in certain courts, and this is another thing that a lot of people don't know, and this is something that I'm looking into. So I don't want to say too much in case I get up, but there are only 1 or 2 courts where certain things apply.
Yes, you are correct. However, fraud applies everywhere. Fraud vitiates everything. So when this individual is telling me, oh, well, that's in a criminal court, that doesn't apply here, he is wrong, because fraud applies everywhere. Of course, fraud applies in the civil. Now, the second time that I went to court in Blackwood for my second property, I started with the promissory note. I said, Mom, I have paid my mortgage with a promissory note. I said, can I confirm, Mom, that a promissory note, as per Lord Denning's ruling, is as legal tender? She confirmed it is. She confirmed that you can, in fact, pay a mortgage with a promissory note. Now, that's not Dale's opinion. I can't remember the name of the judge, but I've got it. We've got it, right? So the only drama for me was she said, well, Mr. Vincent, can you prove that you've paid it with a promissory note? Unfortunately, at that moment in time, I lost my receipts. However, when a promissory note is sold to a trust, it is near enough impossible to track. I have a friend that has a friend that's a solicitor that can find a promissory note that's been sold to a trust. So now I have a photo of the promissory note, and every promissory note has a serial number on it, exactly the same as money, exactly the same as a check, okay? However, I've not had the opportunity to submit this to a court of law yet. Now, I've tried, and the judge he's told me the big no.
It's
Now,
because they can't ever possibly admit to that, because the whole thing, House of Cards would go.
So Chris, this was my thinking process, right? Because I'm a soldier, and I was hitting the vaccine centres, and then, you know, I'm very much being guided on my spiritual journey, and a police constable, Mark Sexton, ex-retired corper, he told me, Vince, no more. He said, if you continue, you'll be arrested, they'll lock you up, and they'll hold you there for years. So I was like, okay, so where do I go from here? And then I started with the civil cases. But, ladies and gentlemen, if I had kept my receipt, right? Because that's what the judge said to me. If you've paid with a promissory note, prove it. Now, I wasn't able to prove it at that time. So they issued the repossession order. Now, unfortunately, I know it's difficult for people to take information from somebody that's currently lost both properties. However, my legal family that I love and I trust, they claim that my compensation is going to be in the hundreds of millions. Now,
Well,
again, mate,
I certainly hope I get a sponsorship then.
Mate, listen, honest to God, if I had 100 million, right, I would rebuild Wales. I would make Wales the strongest country the world has ever seen. With a strong Wales comes Ireland, Scotland, like you guys would all follow suit, because I'm very out there with my message on the videos. Every time that I do a scenario, I would obviously record it and upload it to try and spread awareness, to try and encourage masculinity, because that's the drama that we have. If I had 10 men with my thinking process back in December 2020, this war would have been over in a 6-month period, in my humble opinion. But every time that I was going and asking my friends to join me, they were saying, Vince, you lost your fucking mind. They said, no way are we going down the police station and arresting. It took me 9 months, and I had to go to, we had to go to Bristol. Me and the team had to go to Bristol because I couldn't get a team together in Wales. But now, that was 4 years ago, and I do believe now, if I was to write the status and say, look, I'm going here this Sunday, I need witnesses, I do believe that there would be many to come to sponsor us, because like I've said, my DMs are, it's incredibly humbling. So many people now, so many people are on the bandwagon.
Well, that's really
so
good.
I believe in the grand scheme of things, I know we're still receiving collateral damage. You know, I'm getting people ringing me semi-regularly, they're suicidal, they don't know what to do, they've got family problems, etc., etc., etc. So we are still seeing collateral damage, but you have to remember, sirs, moms, in war, right?
There's a
I
transition
may need to
period.
go. I may need to go left, or I may need to go right. I may get collateral damage both ways. But what we do is we try to minimize the collateral damage at all times.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I do see a lot of people still struggling. However, as a battlefield perspective, I honestly believe that Trump, and it's not just Trump, whoever's guiding Trump, because Trump is a businessman, the military that are navigating Trump through this process, fucking
Well,
bravo.
I
Because
shall
these
remain.
guys,
I shall keep my judgment. Whatever the fucking word that I'm looking for there. I'll stay neutral. I shall wait
do
to
you
see what
not?
happens. You judge a man
Well,
by his
let's
actions.
well, let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. Do you think we're in a far better position today than we were 4 years ago, or worse?
God, it's a fucking tough one to call, if I'm honest, mate.
It's not, mate. It's right. Listen, again, I appreciate we're still receiving a lot of collateral damage, but look at the censorship. Look at the censorship. Look at all these children that are being rescued. Look
Well,
at
that's good.
you,
It's good that we're getting more exposure covering that, but as a society on the whole, I struggle to see that there's much improvement.
well, because that, and the reason for that is, right, in my opinion, we are very conditioned. We are very much a product of our environment. And at the moment, we're still being run by clowns, okay? However, the soldiers could come in and put guns in the enemy's face, right? Like they done in 1944. They could come in, put guns in the face, you are under arrest, move or you're going to get executed, arrest them, detain them, send them to Torchlight, okay? That could happen. However, if that was to happen today, what's to say that we wouldn't have a Nuremberg Mark III in another 90-year time? I believe that the reason for this operation is to awaken the minds of the general public organically. And again,
So are you going with like the white hats approach where everything we're seeing is a show, it's put on to wake up the normies, but everything's already done?
I believe so, yes. And again, people say, well, that can't be the case because Charlie Kirk got shot the other day. And a lot of people think that Charlie Kirk dying was a psyop. Now, I listened to Ricardo Borsi. Ricardo Borsi claims that he's really dead. I agree. I think that guy really got shot. Again, you can go left, you can go right. We're still going to take collateral damage sometimes. However, what we try to do in the military, pardon me, is we try to minimize the collateral damage. And I believe that's what's happening right now. Now, I'm not saying that this journey isn't easy, and I'm not saying that people are still suffering, but I believe that this is the most organically, this way is to wake people up most organic. And when we wake up organically, ultimately it's less collateral damage, because
It's less
collateral
shock.
damage is PTSD. Collateral damage is suicide. Collateral damage is energy poverty. So what these guys are trying to do, in my professional opinion, is minimize all that. Also, guys, do not be afraid to email your local authorities, okay? Download the affidavit of Dr. Francis Boyle, download the emergency writ. They're all on my social media. Vince7027 on Facebook. There's an underscore in between Vincent7027 on Instagram. Get these
Give me the links and I'll put
legislations.
all the links in the video description and they can click on it.
Thank you, kind sir. Get these, send them to your local authorities, and when they reply to you with, there's nothing that we can do, you keep that email safe, and they will all be held to account. I promise you, sirs, mums, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, very much appreciate your time. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I just wish we could be more open on this platform. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
It's
I hope
coming.
so. It needs to. It really does need to. Listen, thank you so much. I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed it. And until next time, look after yourselves, take care, and I'll see you all again in the next one. Bye for now.
Thank you, troops.